Hello and welcome to Grounds for Discussion, a podcast, brand new, just starting it with my husband, Sean. Hi, Sean.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
So, how in the world did we get here? So, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to have you introduce yourself, give a little brief background about what you do, and then you can flip the script and ask me that question. So, who are you?
So my day job, the director of engineering at a plastic manufacturer that I've worked at for 39 years. But here at Deja Blue, I've been the coffee roaster, coffee connoisseur from the get-go. I started out coffee roasting about 13 years ago. Just started playing around with it, and one thing kind of led to another. Started roasting for a coffee shop in town, actually at this location. And then the short story, they moved out, quit doing coffee, and we moved coffee in. So that was sort of the short story progression of how all that came to be. So Patty,
Shawnee. You want me to introduce
how
myself?
did you start? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Patty Duzing. I am married to our coffee connoisseur. My background is in the medical field. I was in the medical field for 29 years. And while he's over in left field roasting coffee, have always been interested in fashion. When I was a little girl, I got a gift when I was in kindergarten. And if anyone else out there remembers this kind of present, if you will, comment below. So I got a set of socks that had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on the socks, and that inspired me to have my outfits picked out for every day of the week. So it's not a stretch to say that I love fashion and I love clothing. So while that's happening, you're roasting coffee. Angelica, my niece, expresses an interest in fashion modeling, photo shoot, that kind of thing. So I do everything I can to help her get an experience with that. Very long story short, we produced 14 runway shows. Do you remember all that craziness?
Oh yeah.
That was wild. From St. Cloud to here locally, producing all these runway shows to give her the experience of modeling. And from there, that grew. I lost cameras.
You're still going. You're still alive.
Am I still going? Whoop! From there, that grew into location, because at the same time, we're tumbling stone, right? We're tumbling stone. That's what she first modeled for us, was the jewelry that we made with the tumbled stone. We took that on kind of a hobby, and there's a big backstory to that I will share at some point. So you're roasting coffee, I'm building the fashion piece of it, and pretty early on we thought it would be a good idea to bring the two together. Mind you, that's not our background. I don't have a degree in business. I know nothing about business. We've learned painfully sometimes as the years have gone on. So where am I at? What happened next after the runway shows? Oh, this location.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think even a key thing is the first location that we had, because that was sort of where we started talking about having a boutique and coffee shop at a different location in town. So that was sort of the start of that piece of it, which I think is kind of a critical piece. Because that was in what year? 2000 and...
I don't know. I have a hard time with the time frame. Like, I'd have to sit down and document it all. It must have been 2014, 2013, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Because we're 10 years in total. This April of
2025.
Yeah. Yep. So we get to this location how? A friend of mine owns a boutique on Broadway, 500 block, right? Erica?
Yes.
Yep. She tells me about the business owner that had her shop here and that she needed vendors and had some space that we could potentially take on and bring our clothing here. At this point, we have clothing, we got the license, the tax ID to have that piece brought in, and we come in and meet with the owners, and lo and behold, what do they do here?
They have a small coffee shop in the back of the store. And just out of curiosity, I had been playing around with roasting for probably a year and a half, maybe at that point, maybe 2.
Real quick, how did you get into roasting? Curiosity? You
It,
love
it,
coffee?
it was, and you know, it was sort of like everybody, you know, back in the day, it was Hills Brothers and Folgers and Butternut and you know, those canned coffees, and at some point in time, then you know, Starbucks started coming around, and I started buying the Starbucks coffee. And I thought, this is so much better
Sure.
than anything else that you're buying off the shelf. And so I started delving into that and started researching online, thinking, you know, okay, well that's interesting, but how do you get there? How do they do that? What's behind it all? And so I ran into some things on green coffee and green coffee roasting and that kind of thing. So that's how I kind of started playing with it.
Did you right away know? Did you feel like, oh boy, I'm gonna love this? Like, I like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it was a challenge. It was one of those things that most people don't know a lot about, and I certainly didn't know anything about either. And so that was sort of the allure to me, that I saw that as a challenge, and I saw that as something that could, you know, be fulfilling. And if I could get there, you know, how fun would that be?
So the one thing I know about you, being married to you for almost, how long has it been? I'm just kidding. Not really. 15? Almost 15 years?
15 years we've been together, yeah.
So I'm not even sure of our anniversary. And it's not because I don't love him. I love him with all my heart. I just don't keep track of days like that. But the one thing I know about you is that you are so detail oriented. Like, you're not gonna let any stone go unturned, which is why I think coffee roasting is right up your alley. Because when he's roasting, I can't talk to him. I can't look at him. I can't even breathe in his direction. He is so laser focused on the roasting process. And it's pretty fun, actually, to watch you do that.
Yeah, and so, you know, I started out with, honestly, one of the first things that I saw online was you could roast coffee with a whirly pop on top of the stove. And so that's where I started out. And I thought, well, Patty was out of town for work for a few days, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to do that. And so I got some coffee ordered online, some green coffee, and I knew enough about it at that point to know that there's, you know, 3 different stages, and you listen for the cues and the smells that are coming off it.
So
and that's
when you-
about all I knew.
When you say cues, the beans are chemically reacting
Exactly.
and they're talking to you.
They do.
I love
They literally
that.
do.
Yeah. So back to where our minds are blown when we come to this location to see if it's a fit to bring in our clothing, and we find out that the business has a small coffee bar. Sean asks the question, who's roasting your coffee?
Right. And they just kind of looked at each other like they didn't really want to give it up. And they said, well, you know, we're looking to find a local artisan roaster. That's what they were doing in the store, was having a lot of local artists with jewelry, with clothing, with a number of different things. Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah, and so they wanted to do the same thing with a local coffee roaster. I said, well, that's what I'm doing. And so they said, okay, we'll bring some in and we'll try it out, and then we'll, you know, kind of go from there. And so I roasted coffee. I brought it in for them. They're like, wow, this is really good. And this is just a roaster that I had, at that point, kind of just threw together. Got a stainless drum and infrared heat source and pulleys and all kinds of things to get the right rotational speed. And I just put it together, and I was roasting coffee, and it was actually pretty good, better than most stuff that you're gonna buy. Number one, it was high quality, and number two, it was super fresh, which is almost impossible to find. And the fresh coffee is just so much better. So anyway, brought it in, and they loved it, and it was better than what they had been getting, and worked up a deal. And they said, okay, we'll just bring in this much, every 2 weeks, bring in whatever. I don't even remember where it was, but yeah, I can do that. So that's how it all started.
And from there, again, a long story, they moved out. Actually, they didn't quite move out. They told us they were moving out, and they asked us if we'd take over the entire location. And at the time, I'm still working full-time. I worked full-time throughout this whole process for 8 years before I left my full-time job. So I'm working full-time, Sean's working full-time, and they ask us to take over the location. Another one of those moments. We talked it over very quickly. We didn't have a lot of time in which to make a decision, and we decided to jump, and we did it. And it's not been easy. It's probably the hardest thing I have ever done. Nursing school was tough. That was really hard, actually. Life is hard, the jobs, my mentality, and you know this about me, that when I take on a job or I accept a position, my approach and my mindset is I'm going to work at that as if I want the highest position there. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it. Doesn't mean that's what I'm after, but I hold myself to that standard of performance that I want to climb the ladder and I want to do the best job possible. So even having that kind of makeup, this is still so hard. It's the hardest thing ever. How do you feel about it? Difficult? Kind of? Not really?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's there's so many challenges on the legal side of it, the business side of it, the financial side of it, the time side of it. I mean, everything, I think, takes everything that you've got. It literally does, takes everything that you've got.
And it consumes.
To try to accomplish it.
Yep.
It really does. But then there's the reward side. And the reward side is the relationships. Then this is really the payback. Is the relationships that you get with people, the interactions with people, the feedback that you get. That's really where the rewards and the payback is. For somebody to come in and say, "Oh my gosh, this coffee is just amazing. Where did you get it? What do you do? How do you do this?" And we never tire of hearing it. It's something that I don't think it would ever get you'd ever get tired of hearing that. I guess actually that feedback, you're always wanting to make it better. You're always looking for the next best coffee, the next best profile in coffee to make that coffee, each particular one, the best that it can be. And you're working really hard at it. And so, and you don't know without feedback, you don't know.
Right, if you're reaching your goal.
We're used to having the freshest, the best coffee every day. And so our bar is pretty high. And it really helps to have feedback from people that aren't doing that on a regular basis, because then there really is a jump. Kind of like when I first did it, when I roasted the first batch that I roasted, I actually think it was even not too bad for what it was. But
I didn't get any. Where was I for work? I was in Bozeman, Montana.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful location. Hello to anyone from Bozeman. Beautiful, beautiful location. And I never got that first batch. I feel like I missed out. And you did, though. You thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go from your roasting I'm doing fashion, helping Angelica get the experience of modeling. That grows into let's bring in clothing wholesale, let's bring in accessories, because when we were doing these runway shows, people would ask to purchase. Initially what I did was gather outfits for her friends that were in our very first runway show. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
And I found outfits on clearance racks and thrift stores for them. 7 little girls at the age of 12, and that's how we pulled all that together. So the boutique is building, the coffee is building. We don't even know what's coming. We don't even have a clue as to where we're being led. And the next thing is, a few years in, we bring in a mobile coffee unit. I don't even know how we got there. That was very difficult. So we decide, actually we had talked about this from the very beginning, that we wanted to bring in a mobile coffee shop, that was part of the plan. And so we did that. So do you remember how that started? 2 things.
I do, yeah.
It was 2 big like shoves. I felt like the universe gave us, like, all right, get going.
Well, yeah, you talk about things and you talk about where you want to go, and we'd literally had that conversation a decade earlier, almost.
Mm-hmm.
And but you get tied up in everything that's going on. Both of us working full-time jobs and all of the challenges of the location here, the store, and everything that's going on. You're consumed. And so something has to be a catalyst for that. And I remember the catalyst for that was somebody from the fair board
Yes.
called up.
She'd been a customer and had been coming. Somehow she
Yeah.
found us, thankfully. Yay. And she'd been coming in for coffee. And she asked,
Right, because
will you bring your coffee to the county fair?
Right. Because the previous coffee vendor wasn't able to make it. And so they wanted another coffee vendor, and so they asked, can you do it? Can you get it there? And we're like,
and what did I say?
yes. And then you said, Sean, how are we going to do this?
Here's what I said. Sure, I'd love to. And then I said to this guy, Sean, how am I going to do it? I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
And my personality is that, yes, we'll figure it out. I don't have any idea, but, and we'll get to this a little more in depth in a little bit, I have tremendous faith and love, actually, for the creator of the universe, Jesus, and trust him completely, and have to work at that, though, a lot. But I just know that if I lean into him, we're going to be able to do it. So we said yes to the county fair. And we did what? What did we do? We're so kind of crazy. How did we do it? Tables. Do you
Yeah.
remember? Tables. We hauled in fridges. We had our tech guy, Thomas, behind the scenes. Hi, Thomas. He helped us bring in freezers,
Yeah.
refrigerators, tables, yes,
With a
and
tent.
a tent.
Found
He
a
helped us
tent,
with a
yeah.
tent. I think it was your dad's tent, Thomas.
A sister, but yeah.
So we did the county fair the first year, and that was tough. Early mornings, late nights. Not as late as when we finally got the trailer, but we did it. So that was July. That the county fair is in August.
Yeah.
So what year would that have been? Like I said, I'm horrible with dates and horrible with. So 2020.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this was our third year with.
This would have been
Trailer?
yes, the third year with
So
the
it was
trailer.
a year before that.
Yeah. Okay. So a little bit after, so we do the county fair in August, and sometime in September, early October of that same year, a gal by the name of Sandy stops in to see me here at the shop, and she's organizing an art market at our local park here, down at the end of Broadway, and it's called Big Ole Park. And she's organizing an art market with the local art guild and wants to know if we'll bring coffee down there. And again, what did I say, Sean?
Sure. And then it's,
I
Sean,
had
how
no
are we
idea
going
how.
to do this?
I had no idea how yet again. But you know what? We'd gotten through the county fair, so I thought, yeah, we can do this. And we did. And that started the serious hunt for the trailer.
Yeah.
We found one in December of that same year. And again, our tech kid, Thomas, and his dad helped us outfit it. He welded the frame for our beastie espresso machine.
Yeah.
We spent January, February, March, April,
Yeah.
May getting that trailer ready for Saturday Art Market and being mobile. And that was the start of now 3 seasons in. We're going into our 4th season this coming May of being out on the coffee truck. And that experience, so a little back history on me. I know 100% I'm a workaholic. I work and work and work. I feel like one of the 7 dwarves. I'm off to work. I go. You know, that's my thing. So I have to say that having, I don't know how you feel, having the coffee truck, that nearly broke me. Like, not as in physically, emotionally, mentally. That pushed me to a limit I didn't know I even could get close to. That was so hard. Do you remember the first Saturday that we were supposed to do, Saturday Art Market?
Yeah.
What happened?
The water pump failed in the trailer, and we couldn't get there. We didn't have hot water, so
How late
we'd be
did-
compromising
Yes.
our license, and
Yes.
we didn't want to do that.
Yes.
So
And I'm a rule follower. As I've mentioned, I'm a nurse. I follow the rules. We could not go to Saturday Art Market without hot water. So we didn't go. But how late did we stay up that night? I'll never forget this. I'll never forget how late we were up.
oh gosh,
Midnight.
yeah.
And then what time did we get up? Do you remember?
Well, typically it was 3:30, 4 o'clock.
That morning, because we were still trying to figure out how to get
there.
that pump going
Yeah.
and how to show up. Because the very first art market, we did not want to not show.
Right.
So midnight, we're up trying to get this fixed. I'm done. I'm completely spent. So are you. He's a little bit older than me. And we get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to try to figure it out. And we never got there. That was my longest work day. 21 hours. What that taught me, though, is that I'm capable of pushing myself even more. And I think for you, after that experience, what did you come away with? What did you learn from that?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna run into obstacles. Always gonna run into obstacles, and you just get through them.
So the one thing about Sean is that he is doggedly determined. Like, you get on a task and you're not gonna quit. Like, it's kind of like when you ride bike. You put your head down and you just go, and you're gonna figure it out. And that quality that he has makes me want to keep up.
Yeah.
So in trying to chase you and keep up with you, and I think, well, gosh, if he can work this hard, I as his wife have to show up and work just as hard. So needless to say, it's been exhausting. We've spent 3 seasons on the truck. We've had many, many, many obstacles, many situations come up where we didn't know if we were going to show, equipment failures. But like you said, we always get through them, which is great.
You improvise at times. You know,
Yes.
improvise.
Yep. So then we scoot forward 3 seasons in the truck, and meanwhile, our niece Angelica is working here. She's been working with us from the beginning when she moved to Alexandria. So she's been here, 7, 8 years at the shop. She's been through every stage of growth with us, which is kind of fun actually, when you think about it. What an opportunity. I think back, and I hope that someday she'll see the time that we spend together is invaluable. So you know this about me and my dad and I spent, I wish I could have spent more, but I spent a significant amount of time with him on the farm, in the trucks, grading potatoes, weighing semis. He was a foreman at a farm in rural Minnesota, and I just learned so much from him. Even the unspoken communication, just being in his presence and watching him work, and I hope that she has that and will understand the value probably when I'm gone. So
Right.
so we've got 3 seasons in the truck, and then Angelica's here the whole time in the mix, and I start asking her, what do you want to do when you grow up? What's like your dream? What do you see yourself doing? And she's totally into books, loves books, reads what? How many books?
Oh, it was like 100 or 100+ last year. I think she fell a little shorter this year just because she had so much stuff going on.
Yeah, she was a
She
little
was
more.
pretty disappointed.
Yeah, no, she was very disappointed in herself. Yet she read a ton, and she's always encouraging us to read, which is kind of fun to see her. Like, you really should read this book. You'll learn so much from it. And she shared, and again, a little bit about my personality. I feel like we're here to help each other grow, and if I can provide an opportunity for someone to accomplish something off their to-do list, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna help them, which is why we ended up with the 14 runway shows, why I figured out how to do photo shoots. All of that was to provide opportunity. So she says she wants to someday own a bookstore, but not here, that she would love to move and experience the world a little bit. So I say to thee, Angelica, why wait for a brick and mortar? That's a hard, heavy load, a brick and mortar. So I encouraged her to do a mobile bookstore. Like, we've done the coffee truck, how about a mobile bookstore? So that begins the journey of looking for a mobile bookstore for her. We find her a horse trailer that's in really bad shape. Was it in bad shape?
Yeah, it's a horse trailer.
It was a horse trailer. It's cute, it's little, it's tiny, it's adorable, but it was really, really dirty. The floor was falling out, and we got it for her. And I'm like, there you go, fix it.
Yeah.
It'll be good for you to learn. And in the meantime, I told my brother, her uncle, to keep an eye out for a trailer. And he found her one. Beautiful, beautiful blue house style little bookstore. It
Looks like a little playhouse on wheels.
Yes, it's so adorable and it's so perfect. And when she saw that picture, she was with me here at the shop, and she said, "Oh, Auntie, I really want that one. Are you going to be upset with me if I tell you that that's the one I want?" And I'm like, nope, no hard feelings. This isn't personal. I want you to grow, and I want you to get what you want. I want something that fires you up. So we end up with the trailer in our yard. And what do you say to me about the trailer?
I don't have room for this.
And you said, you can sell it.
Yeah.
He says, you can sell it. We can sell it for what we put into it, and that'll be the end of that. I didn't have much of a response, but the one thing that started stirring in my consciousness was, what if? So we drive home night after night, month after month, and I'm looking at this trailer sitting in our yard, and then eureka, we're going to do a mobile boutique. We're taking the boutique portion of our shop, and we're going to take it mobile. And then I share that with Sean. What was your response? Kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the only thing is, generally I'll contemplate it, but I know in pretty much everything, you're not really coming up with this on your own. We ask always to be guided, to be directed, to, how do we make an impact in this world? What are we here to do? And so none of this stuff I don't think we ever come up with on our own. I think it's inspired. And so when you consider the where that it's coming from and how could that make an impact, you can always make that link. You always can make that link. So that's the muster test, I guess.
Right.
Is this going to be helpful for people?
Right.
Is this going to impact how we want to relate with other people and grow
our footprint and our reach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this a million times, that we're in this realm, in this experience, to personally grow spiritually. I think our journey starts in heaven and we find our way here. And from the moment we take our first breath to the moment we take our last, we are looking to get home. And in the meantime, I think we have a divine obligation, and I think you agree with me, to reach as many people as we can, holding Jesus like right here and touching as many people as we can. And it doesn't have to be, like in your face, just doing what you're moved to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the universe takes care of the how. Mm-hmm. And the what, and brings the right people that are seeking and searching, and we're just there. We're just a conduit. We're not educated in that.
No,
none
not
of those
at all.
things, and I think that's somewhat of an advantage because it's organic.
Yes, and I'm blissfully naive. I don't know what I don't know, but what I do know is that I have a tremendous faith in Jesus. And we just bulldoze our way through somehow. So, to the podcast, we have the brick and mortar, the boutique. We bring in coffee. We bring in the mobile coffee truck. We help Angelica with her mobile bookstore. We've got the cute little horse trailer. It's now cute. It's a friend of ours. Pulled out everything on the inside, put in a new floor. It's beautiful. That'll be out this spring. The mobile boutique. And here we are, podcast. How and why? Do tell.
Yeah.
So, personally, I got I don't even know what you call it. It started stirring around in my being, in my soul, that I wanted to do a podcast. So we have all this stuff going on. A full-time job, a brick and mortar shop, bringing in coffee. We've got employees, all the things. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I think I'd like to do a podcast. This was how many years ago?
Oh gosh. 8 years ago, something like that.
8 years ago.
So something is stirring, right?
Right.
And it's never about our timing.
Right.
And so, for whatever reasons, the timing wasn't right at the time. And, when you look back at it, of course it wasn't. I mean, we're both working full-time jobs. Plus we have the full-time store that we're trying to maintain. And
grow.
And
still in grow mode.
Yeah. And trying to, how do you get enough money for rent for next month so we can still be here? And of course, that's always a challenge.
Yes, you start that race every single day.
Yeah, and I don't know that ever goes away.
I don't think it does.
We've gotten to know a lot of the business owners downtown, and some that have been here for 25, 30 years, and they're still asking that question. Right. So it's not easy. It's a challenge, and so you just got to keep looking to a higher power, to help you figure out how to put all the pieces together and go. But yeah, so I think that was stirring then.
It was
a long
definitely.
time ago. And then you look back at it now and what led up to spurring this into motion now in like high gear. Like, it's time, it's ready. It just happened. It really did. and the realization of what we need to do and the timing and the urgency of doing it, it was just forced on us, and it we just ask and try to hear,
Right.
and listen and obey, be obedient. And
That is one of our biggest prayers, and I
on the
pray
daily. Yeah.
constantly for me to be able to hear, because the one thing I do know is that we're never alone. Jesus is always with us. We're never left hanging out
To
in
your
the
own
wind.
accord.
No.
Yeah.
And for me to hear him, because I know he's there and I know he's communicating with me, but in my humanness, I don't hear that. So it did feel urgent.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, bam, that's
Yeah.
it. We're doing this. And 8 years ago, I bought an iPad and I bought a microphone, which is in our office upstairs, and it's still in the box, to plug into that said iPad. And I was going to have my sister be my surrogate. She was going to speak for me. She was going to follow my script. She was going to interview our, I don't know, who sits in my interview chair. And the reason I wanted her to do it is she's 10 years younger than me. So here I am at the age of 55. Yep. And it was with urgency that I felt, and we felt, the time is now and we're going to see this through. One of the reasons is, as a nurse, I felt extremely privileged and held in a very sacred space the conversations that I would have with patients in a patient room, whether it was behind the curtain in a hospital bed or behind the door in a patient clinic room. People go through heavy stuff, like serious spiritual stuff, emotional, physical, health, and I never took it for granted what was being shared, but I also felt it came with the territory. And because I was in that space where a patient was vulnerable, I was receiving their most vulnerable thoughts. And I never in a million years expected that when I came here full time 2.5 years ago, the things that would be shared with me across the coffee counter. And having those experiences and people sharing what they share, I feel like people want to share. And I'm here. I've listened to so many things, from grief, death in the family, suicides, domestic violence.
And people don't even know they're looking for an outlet to share that necessarily, I think, on the inside, but it just comes out.
Mm-hmm.
It just comes, and it has to.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of those things for healing and for moving forward.
Right.
And, how do you turn this into something that's helpful instead of something that's, hurtful or painful. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And so that it's just there, and it
So
needs to come out.
it did feel urgent when we finally said, okay, for 8 years this has been swirling, not only in my brain, but in my heart, in my soul. Let's do it, Sean. And
Yeah.
I sat down with you and one of our employees that I consider to be in our inner circle, and we talked about it, discussed, and we kind of strategized where should we have the location within the store. We knew we wanted to do that. And when I proposed it to you, you said what immediately?
It needs to be in the front window. It has to be in the front window. There's just something about it. The activity, the energy, the vibe, all of those things. It's just it has to be part of it. Being in the community is some of it, but just so many things. In a room, a soundproof room, which this isn't, off in a corner someplace. I mean, it's good, but there was something that I think this brings to the table that you can't get just in a box.
I agree. And I think, to me, this feels so much of what I feel across the counter when, I was going to say patients, when customers come in and we develop relationships, and I consider them friends, and they share what they share. It is so organic and so real and so part of everyday life, which is why this location right on Broadway seems so appropriate to build our little podcast studio.
Yeah, I think it was just I never felt anything else, and it's just like the reason that we didn't start it 8 years ago. This was just revealed recently,
Right.
within the last few months, of the why and the what, and the whole reason behind it. Because I think there was something stirring 8 years ago, but it wasn't revealed as to what's driving it. What's the intention? That part wasn't really there until just recently, and then when it hit, it was like, we can't start this soon enough. We can't get this going fast enough. And we don't, without a big budget or anything like that, how are we going to pull this together?
Zero budget. Forget the big budget. There's zero budget.
Yeah,
But somehow,
here
I
we
know
are.
how we are.
And I
here.
love it. I love this space. I really
I
do.
do too.
It just feels good.
Yep. And I'm so grateful to everyone that has been pulled into this swirl
Even years
of
ago.
energy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And I always, when we talk about this, we're going to talk about you, Thomas. We talk about this, that here you've had this working relationship with Thomas's dad, Greg, and Sean work together.
For over 38 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And becoming Mrs. Sean, I got to know Greg and the rest of the family. And I always tell Sean, like, Greg is so different. He is so genuine in his desire to help. And he is such a good friend. He really is.
Yeah, always has been.
And so I slowly got to know Greg over the course of 15 years. And then his daughter, Thomas's sister, Allison, and Sam. And we got to know Thomas. And he's this techie genius that we couldn't do this without him. And
Right.
that's no mistake. That's no accident
No.
that Greg is your friend, that he's so genuinely helpful,
Yeah.
and he has a son who's the same
Yeah,
thing.
somebody saw this way before we
Yep.
did and had it all figured out, because we couldn't have done that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Couldn't have.
Yep. So I'm very grateful to everyone that's been on this journey thus far, and that will be with us in the next stage of this journey. Grounds for Discussion, that's the name of our podcast. This is our pilot episode, our introduction, and we hope you come back and check out a series of discussions.
Yeah.
Good? Oh,
Yeah.
it's starting to snow again. It's beautiful downtown Broadway.
Yeah, in the middle of a winter storm.
Right.
Yeah, so thank you all for joining us and sticking with us through to the end, and look forward to more.
We'll see you soon.